And a pleasant good morning, everybody, and welcome into Pattison Avenue Phanatics show. I'm your host, James Scorza, filling in for Tom Kelly this week. With me, as always, is the group of companions on this Saturday morning of must-see action of Philly sports. Joey Marks, what's going on, my friend?
Welcome to Sweeps Saturday. Happy Earth Day, folks.
Happy Saturday. David Salim.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Saturday, gang.
And Frank Finnegan.
I don't want to jump on, let's say, sweeps yet. But let them sweep, and then we'll have a sweep day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot to get to on this Saturday. We got the Sixers, hopefully, like we can say a sweep by the end of the day. NFL draft coming before we know it, and the Eagles are still at the 10 and 30th pick of the first round. Hopefully, they'll do something like probably Georgia Bulldogs, knock on wood. Phillies struggles, but other than that, it's probably ebb and flow this season. Joey, you're the man of the hour. Where do we begin on this beautiful Saturday morning?
Gentlemen, I need the floor for a minute because I need to get something off my chest.
Okay.
Right.
I want to just make things really crystal clear. Jonathan Gannon.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it, man.
You stay over in your lane in Arizona. You decided to leave. You decided that you were bigger than the team, and you decided to leave. No. It wasn't the media that was saying 8-0, 9-0, you need to be fired. No, it was me saying you need to be fired. It was me who said in week 5 that you need to go. No, it wasn't anybody else. Don't blame anybody else. Blame me. I sent your ass packing because I wanted you out. Second, you have the audacity to steal the moniker of the Bird Gang and take it with you to Arizona. You don't have the right, dude. You were here for a cup of coffee and a crimpet. You don't get the right to say anything with the word bird and gang in the same damn sentence and be okay with that. You're coming here this season. There's going to be no tribute video to you, friend. There's going to be the whole defensive line, the whole defensive unit sticking up their middle fingers to you, pulling on Malcolm Jenkins and telling you how they really feel about you. Mr. Gannon, I tell you this with all due respect. Shut your mouth. Done. Now,
can I just add?
Go ahead.
Thanks for listening, folks. Have a nice day.
You can't have a crumpet. He gets a hostess ring ding. Crumpets are Philly. You cannot have a crumpet. Hostess ring ding.
There you go.
He gets it. No, we give him a
ring
snowball.
ding and a Twinkie.
He gets a
Ring ding
snowball.
and a Twinkie.
He gets a hostess snowball. He doesn't get. He doesn't deserve a ring ding.
Right.
He doesn't deserve a ring ding. He doesn't deserve any good chocolateness.
Yeah, you're right, Frank. Ring dings.
I will take it. I will take it one step further.
Right.
Thanks to Frank Finnegan, I will take it one step further. The Philly fans should be loaded with hostess snowballs as they enter the game. And now we will be known for not throwing snowballs at Santa, but we will be known for throwing hostess snowballs at Jonathan Gannon.
That's brilliant.
We got some comments to talk about today. Obviously, we're talking about Joel Embiid not being in the game. I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain. Fuji says, good morning, fellas. Happy Saturday. Well, Eagles Nation be buzzing this time around next week when Howie maybe takes Bijan Robinson. I got something to say about Bijan Robinson, but I don't think it'll be.
We will get
we'll
to that.
dissect that too. And Mike Loro says, what's going on? Joey's fired up this morning. Yep, you got that right, brother. You got that right.
Just a little bit, Joey.
Yeah.
Joey's getting upset.
Listen, you all. It's not a hidden secret what I feel about Jonathan Gannon. It's not a hidden secret.
Yeah.
He could go to Arizona, be completely irrelevant and completely, obscure in that area. But you're not taking Bird Gang, and you're definitely not going to sit here and blame us. You can blame me.
Blame El Presidente.
Yeah. So let's get down to your Philadelphia 76ers. We'll start with the Joel Embiid flagrant and the repercussions. And Dame, I'm going to start with you. I really want to know how you feel about what's been going on with this whole situation. And I heard from James that he's not playing today. Is that due to a
Yeah, he's not playing.
Yeah,
he has an MRI on his knee.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead. And
No, he's not saying that to me. Like, it's not into the lineup today.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to sit him out. I'm hearing some people call him China doll, but here's what I looked at it. And I was reading some things on social media, and I have a thread with my friends and my brother. I think they looked at it like this. They were hammering him. It was clear that they were trying to hurt him. As far as him kicking Claxton, you can't step over a man. You just can't do that, especially when you had the opportunity to walk around him. I don't blame him for that. I know people say you got to be careful. He's in the moment. They're trying to. I get all that, but you're not going to degrade me by hanging your sacks over my face. We're not doing that. We're just not doing that. Right. So, and then to me, he took the higher road when Claxton got ejected and made that face. But I get it. People want to. Is he snake bitten with the injury? Say what you want. I look at it like this. It's the Sixers' way of saying we're sitting them out. We're going to sweep them today. They're beating them today. They didn't through at that game on Monday to see it. As soon as the ball was going his way, the defenders was rolling with the ball. They were throwing 3 to 4 guys at him at one time. And Joe got some bangs in there as well, but you could see they were trying to hurt him. Why play him today? We're going to beat them. We're up 3-0. They gave us their best shot. We came back. Maxey took over. And then now and I know we'll get to it later, Joe. The fact that let me say what would have happened. They sweep them today. They were going to have a week off anyway. They weren't going to play till next Sunday. Even had Boston swept Atlanta, we no longer. That's not going to happen now, and we'll get into that a little later. So now you sit him down, you get a rest. And I'm sure there's a little something there, but I'm nothing to make because he finished the game and he got a block shot. It's their wink, MRI. Sit him down. Be back fine for the next round. That's how I'm looking at it.
Frank Finnegan.
Let me ask you a question, Dame. Do you think they're going to reduce Harden's very flagrant 2? I think they should.
No, they would have done it by now. They would have done it by now.
That's not great then. That's not good.
No, I know. I read that he can get. But the other thing about him is, like he said, first of all, that was a horrible call. I mean,
that was a makeup. I'm telling you, that was a makeup for not kicking Embiid out of the game. You
can't ref like that. You can't ref like that. I don't. If you're
going
to tick for tat, I don't need you reffing. That's not how you get the game.
That guy should be sweeping up after the game, not reffing the game. That's horrible.
Yeah, you can't officiate like that. But to your point, I understand if he gets 2 more, he's not going to get 2 more. He's too smart for that.
No,
I don't worry about that. I don't worry about that. That's the least of my worries. It's the least of my worries with them.
Are you talking about 2 more flagrants? Or
if he gets 2 more flagrant 2s, he gets a 1-game suspension.
He's never been kicked out of a game other than the last time. I mean, that was the first time he was ever kicked out of a game. Exactly. So I don't see him getting. Right. I don't see him going. What I see is the kind of the opposite. That they are taking Embiid out because they don't want him to get more cheat. Look, the series is pretty much over. Mm-hmm. They don't want Embiid to be banged up due to a boxing match that's going to occur in Brooklyn. Right. They know that there's going to be a brawl at Barclay. That they're like, they don't want that. So what they're going to do, and now I feel like the Nets have woken the beard, and I think that's a mistake. You know, Damon is known for taking predictions about Joel Embiid and points. I'm going to go that route with James Harden today. I think James drops 30 plus.
I'm with you, Joe.
I think he goes off.
And
the
he was
greater
having a good
concern-
game when they ejected him. I'm sorry, Frank. He was playing well before they ejected him. Yep.
I think the greater concern is they flipped that aggression to Maxey and start bully balling Maxey. That's what I'm worried about. That
you know what's going
he won't be there, so we got to pick somebody. So we're going to take Maxey and we're going to bully ball him.
I said
Tucker's going to take one of their guys. Then Tuck's going to take one of their guys.
I said
he's rooting for it.
I said this in the beginning of the season when we got
Tuck's not to
Tucker.
be played with.
When we got Tucker and Harrell, I said this in the beginning of the season. I think I said it to you, Frank. I said, we got two bouncers. We got two bodyguards on this team that are going to be guys that are going to be like, you're not pushing these guys around. Like, we're here to take
we talked about
point,
Tucker all season long. We always made reference all season long that Tucker's been kind of the invisible man, and I kept saying he's only invisible until the playoff starts.
Before we go any further, today's show
somebody's pain in the ass.
And he's visible, Frank. And to Joe's point, I forgot Montrezl Harrell. You know he's going to get time today because we have two centers. Yep. Oh boy, this is his type of game. This is Montrezl's type of game, baby. Yeah, Claxton. Yeah,
I think Claxton's
for sure
going to leave a little bruised today. He's going to a little beat up today.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Before we go any further today's show, if you're going to the game today and you want to go in future references, check out sherrystickets.com. Save 10% by using the EOP10, using the promo code EOP10 for your next project, for your next event. Great prices, no hidden fees, sports, concerts, and theaters. Visit our website, www.sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. And tell them that the boys over at EOP and Pattison have sent you.
You know, and it's an interesting thing because the way that I had seen it, and we all kind of saw it this way, even prior to the playoffs, is that we knew that the collision course was going to happen between us and Boston in the second round. And second round has been our bugaboo. And there's no hidden secret to this.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I think is a telltale sign is that Doc is adjusting in game, and we always criticize Doc about that the past couple seasons. I mean, if you look at the last two games, I should say, there have been in-game adjustments, halftime adjustments. There have been like no holding anybody back. You know, someone, Freddie Burns had mentioned on Wednesday about Daniel House Jr. He's like, I told you that he wouldn't be in the rotation. I didn't expect him to be. But I would sit here and say that I would expect that if the depth on our line and our rotations are what they are, especially now, that leads to bigger problems for the Celtics because they don't have that type of depth on their team anymore. So I want to start with you, James. There's a collision course happening. At least it's still a collision course in my mind for us and the Celtics. What is your concern level going into the possible collision course with the Celtics in the second round, knowing what our bugaboo is?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. I think the one concern I have to say the most is that how can you stop Jason Tatum? But, I mean, Tatum's going to be one guy that's going to be a factor, no question about it. Maybe Jaylen Brown too, maybe. But I think the one thing that I take out of it too is that, like, depending on if I don't mean to say the words like Joel Embiid being the like every time he gets injured around this time, because that like concerns me a little bit. But overall, I think the one thing that the Sixers need to do is that game 3 probably told the series that they're not going down without a fight, and anybody who has to play them, like, it's going to be like 60 minutes of complete bully ball or whatever it is. And I think that's the thing I take out of it.
Frank, what do you think?
I think the Celtics have figured out how to neutralize Maxey, and neutralizing Maxey is devastating for the Sixers team. That guy has to move all the time. He has to get the ball on the move, and they have figured out how to handcuff that kid. And if Doc can't figure out a way to free him up, the Sixers are going to have a very difficult time with the Celtics. They just are. They'll let Joel get his. I mean, Joel has scored lots of points against the Celtics. But Maxey, to me, is the key to that series. He is the key to the series.
Yeah, no
Dame?
question.
What do you think, Dame?
Couple things. I agree with James, excuse me, in regards to that game 3. Keith Pompey talked about it with Cuz yesterday. That's one of those games where you could look back and you go far in this playoffs, you go, that was the defining moment because, and I've been saying that this team is tough. This is not the roster from last year. I will say that, Joe, Boston does have depth, but I'm going to say something to Frank's point. I agree. Maxey's the key. He's getting revved up. We're revving him up. I saw something last night. I took some major notes watching Hawks Celtics game. Trae Young in a bit reminds me of Maxey, or Maxey a little bit reminds me of Trae Young. What I mean is, Trae Young has the ball more in his hands. Now, if you go back to game 3, when Harden was ejected, we put the ball in Maxey's hands because they would double and triple team and Joe and free Maxey up to score those 10 points. Joe's going to get his against Boston because he's due for a big game in the playoffs. Game 1, busting they behind, but I'll leave that for later. What I saw last night, I saw the formula to beat Boston. When early on, I think in the third quarter, when Atlanta was missing shots, either the third or the second, Jaylen Brown runs out. Boom. He runs out, boom, getting fast breaks. You have to neutralize that. So say if they try that 6 times, you want to get back to at least 3 to 4 to neutralize that. That's one aspect. Doc has to figure out, to Frank's point, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm at the point now I want Boston because I saw something last night. And don't be surprised. Do not be surprised if Atlanta beats them tomorrow because they got confident. Murray was attacking them. Tobias can slow Tatum down. And when Trae Young was getting inside on them, he was eating them. And that will be the formula for Maxey against these dudes. Oh, I'm ready for Boston. I'm ready for them.
I don't want anybody else. I can't. I mean, Boston and Dallas Cowboys. They're the same. They're the same animal to me. I hate them just as much.
I will go into something. So Freddie Burns called in the Cuz today, the other day, and he mentioned about how some people were calling in, and there's this fear of Boston, and I'm kind of with Freddie in lockstep. Like, I'm not scared of Boston. Of course, I see things objectively where Boston's a hard team, but I'm not scared of Boston. I actually was on another show with a guy who's from Boston and is a big Celtics fan, and I said, listen, I was getting his take, and I said, listen, I think that this series is going to go 7, and I think the Sixers are going to take it, but I think it's going to be a hard-fought series. And he thought an opposite direction. He thought that the Celtics were going to take it in 6. And I felt like, no, because I feel like if the Sixers slow down, and I'm going to tap into something that Frank was saying and Damon is saying, in the sense that if the Sixers slow down the Celtics transition game, and they're able to slow them down where there's not as much fast break points, not as much, if they can control the turnovers that the Sixers have to contain the Celtics transition, I feel like this game that series sides more to the Sixers, despite Maxey maybe being stymied a little. Where I think Maxey gets stymied, I think Tobias Harris needs to come out and shine. I think he needs to be the stud along with a James Harden, along with a Joel Embiid. Instead of it being the big 3 and Maxey, Embiid, and Harden, In the Celtics series, it has to be the big three needs to be Embiid, Harden, and Harris. And that's how I feel like that needs to go down because Maxi's still going to get his, but it's going to be a difficult matchup.
Yeah, no question about that. Before we go any further, if you probably are going to play Boston and you have a little bit of fighting with those Celtics fans, you can check out David on Cherry Esquire, workers' comp, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, criminal law. Give him a call at 610-565-0300.
Awesome.
And also tell him that the boys over at Pattison have an EOP sent you because there's going to be a lot of. I can tell there's a lot of second streets that down are going to be Celtics fans are going to be like, I got to call Cherry Esquire for more.
All I can say is,
awesome.
Frank, make sure you got that information.
Yeah, that was
Frank,
awesome.
Make sure you have his information.
I have his information on speed dial.
That was awesome. Hey, can I ask you guys a question?
Sure, yeah.
Frank,
No.
So the Sixers have been unable to get the Harden and B pick and roll going in this series. So A, is it because of the way they're triple and double teaming Joe? B, do you possibly think that Doc's, and I don't think I understand it, even though I'm asking this question, maybe holding back to hold it for the second round, or is it a combination of both? C, is it a combination of both?
Well, I mean, Dane, when you're watching the games, I mean, most teams play from structure defensively in a half-court game. Brooklyn has no structure because they have no answer for this team, so it's been team chaos. I mean, it's there's no pick and roll options because they've put all the traffic. They put all the traffic on Joel. I mean, like he's got like road cones around him. I mean, so you can't do a pick and roll when you got road cones around.
With the orange flap jackets, Harden and those guys got the orange.
Guy out there directing traffic, and I mean, like it's terrible. But actually, the refs are kind of hoping that because they should be calling more fouls on that one. But that's why it has nothing to do with play calling or play development. It has everything to do with the fact that they're just playing chaos. They're playing chaos, and I mean you can't. The only thing you can do with chaos is just get the free man the shot, and that's what the Sixers doing. They've been burying their free shots, and man, they have been a beast on the offensive boards. So if they play on the offensive boards against Boston, the way they're playing against New York, they'll beat Boston. They will beat them.
And Frank, and I agree with what you said. That's why I was kind of, but to your point about the offensive boards, your guy PJ playoff Paul Tucker, PJ Tucker, playoff Tucker has been on those boards.
What he shows. You know what he shows. You know what he demonstrates that you never see it during the regular season. And Malone and Charles used to do this all the time. I mean, they made their money making rebounds. Rebounds is all about attitude. And want to.
I'll add another name to that. Bill Cartwright.
You have to want to. And I mean, Bill Cartwright. When you look at PJ, playoff PJ, that's all about attitude.
Yeah.
He's saying, no,
another gear. Another gear.
Get the frock out of my space. And he takes control. I mean, he was beating guys to the spot. He was, and I mean, like guys who were going to the spot, he was beating there. This is not a young man.
No,
but he saved his legs for this time of year. So,
and we knew that was coming. We knew that was coming.
Right. Excellent point, Frank. Excellent point.
And I wanted to.
He is a pain. He is a pain in the ass in the playoffs. There's no two ways about it. He did it to us. I mean,
I know.
Well, James said that. James said that in the post game. He said
for us.
That's exactly what James said. James Harden said in the post game, like that's why he's on our team. That's why I wanted him. Is because the energy that he shows.
I guarantee you, he is at the top of the conversation in Boston. They already know what Joel's going to do. They know what the Beard's going to do. They know what they're going to do with Max. They know what to do Tobias. I'm
What
telling
do
you,
they?
the top of the conversation in Boston is how do we handle that pain in the ass? And
Yeah.
that's if we can neutralize that pain in the ass, we won't have a problem winning. But
I
he's just nasty in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Nasty.
I want to go to maybe another pain in the ass to the opponents, and that is playoff Paul Reed, because one of the things that I had said early on in the season is Paul Reed needs to take another step forward in his progression, and I think he is. I still think he has a ways to go, but I'm not saying that to say that I think he's just a bum. I'm saying that because he reminds me of, now I'm not putting him in the same, context as skill set, but if you guys
Careful.
remember Joel Embiid in the beginning of his career, he was always kind of going, like his body was moving in ways that his mind wasn't able to, or vice versa. Like he was being very clunky with his movements. And I feel like Paul is like, oh, I can do this. And we're like, your body's saying no, but your head is saying yes. Okay. But look, I am all for Paul being aggressive. I am all for Paul wanting that moment. We want that more out of these young guys that are coming up. But what I need from him is consistency in what you are, like, have an identity. Like we talk about PJ having an identity in the playoffs. Have an identity on this team.
Yep.
And that way, as you move forward, as we move forward as a team, it'll be easier to plug Paul in, whether it's as a bench player or as a spot starter. It'll be easier to plug him in. And I feel like that's going to be really what the next step Paul has to take in his progress, is creating that identity. So what do you guys think? Damon, what do you think about Paul?
I think he is establishing his identity as far as one, rebounding the ball. He finds that ball, man. He somehow gets in there when he comes in and does his diligence. He gets his hands on the ball. The other thing that's helping him, Joe, and found out this week, the guy campaigned for him is Harden. Mm-hmm. Harden told Doc, "I need him out there." And then if there are times during the game when Harden's telling him go right here and gets him the ball in that nice spot, and he's finishing underneath the rim. So to me, I'm seeing the progress. And he'll get more minutes today. I don't know. We'll find out about 12:30 what the starting lineup's going to be. I don't know if he's going to have Montrez start, or even Dedmon, and just bring him off the bench in his same role. But I mean, he's been getting consistent minutes, and he hasn't hurt us.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you, and then I'm going to throw it to Frank. One of the things that I want to say is I really want to kind of make this clear to people that have been Harden critics. Everyone who said that he's a me guy, not a team guy, look at like what he's done since he's gotten here. He's been the big brother to Maxey. He's fought for Paul Reed to get minutes. He's coached up Jalen McDaniels. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that is taking the young talent and saying, look, guys, it ain't that hard. Like,
so not to cut you off real quick, he also told Doc, let's put Tobias in the dunker spot. Now he's flourishing.
So how is he a me guy? If this is all proof, if this is all evidence that he's a team guy, where did this story come that he's a me guy?
It's because in Houston.
I can tell you where it came from. I can tell you where it came from. It came from the fact that he went and got an agent and announced he wants to go back to Houston. What he's doing is he's holding the gun to the Sixers' head, and he wants a 5-year deal. And I love everything he's done for this team, but I'm not giving the Beard a 5-year deal. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm not locking that money up 5 years.
I'm not ready to get on that. I don't know about all that. I question a lot of that. Bob Cooney said some things like it was November 5. And I think sometimes people just throw stuff out It makes no sense at this stage in your age when you're having the best statistical time of your life with this big guy to walk away from that. I don't buy it. But I will say this: Monday night, at the top of the third quarter, when Doc calls a timeout, when Nets was going on a run, early in the third, he calls a timeout. The Sixers come out of the huddle, and Tucker was on the court. Harden told he gathered Joe, Tobias, and Maxey. He said, "Tuck, come here." He said, "Come here," and he gathered those guys together. I don't know what he said to them, but after that, including what Doc said to them, they went on their run and never looked back. So there's a cohesiveness that's going on because of him. I thought he was a me guy because I saw him from afar in Houston because he was scoring all those points, but he never really had any help. He came in and adjusted his game.
I don't think for a second he's a me guy on the court. I don't think that for a second. I think he's a very good field general on the court. He's an incredible distributor. No, it's the off the court stuff, Joe, that gives me the me guy impression.
I've said this before. I don't care what happens off the court or off the field or off the ice.
Yeah, but this off the court is definitely going to affect the Sixers' future. You know, you traded a lot away. You traded a lot away to get him. You know, and there was draft picks involved, Joe, right? It wasn't just the bum with the nerve impingement. There was draft picks involved.
Yeah, where's that nerve impingement? Where, is he hiding underneath the bridge?
He was eating popcorn at the bench, and you see it. He was like, doing that kind of stuff. He ended the bench, and I mean,
but I thought he was a talent. I thought
Brooklyn. Well, maybe Brooklyn's got him in a music studio upstairs making rap songs. I don't know. That might be where talent is, but it ain't on the court.
Guy barely talks. How is he going to make a rap music?
It's true.
I am what I am.
I wonder if they turn the mic on. The producer goes, "Are you going to talk?" I don't have to talk.
I am what I am.
That's right. I am what I am.
So I'm going to go around the table here, but we're going to start with predictions for today's game. It is a jam-packed Saturday. You got the Sixers at 1, and then the Phillies at 3. They've been moved up from 4 to 3. James, I'm going to start with you. What do you think is going to happen today with the Sixers and the Nets?
I'm going to say the same thing you guys said about Paul Reed. I think that might be this might be the game that he's going to shine today, and especially without Embiid not in the lineup today. But that game on. I'm going to go back to that Game 3 game. Like that last 2 minutes was like this team can beat anybody. I mean, I don't know what Boston's going to be like, but like the way like they play a full 60 minutes is like. It's like basically like the best team I've seen probably since that 2001 team. And I know I was only God knows how long I was at the time. I was like a young buck, but yeah, but I really do like to see this team play. I really do like to see a sweep today. I really do like to see Ben Simmons shipping back home to his wherever his cave
under the bridge
in a cave, whatever you want to call it. He can be like a Wilson. He can be that guy from Castaway. Who the hell knows?
Frank, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen today?
I think if what I think is going to happen with the chaos plan that Brooklyn has been running out there, and they go after Maxey, PJ Tucker's going to kill somebody. I mean, there's going to be blood on the hardwood if they go after Maxey to stop him. I think Tucker's going to wind up killing somebody. I mean, I don't know.
I know we did the David Archeri ad already, but PJ, if you need legal representation.
PJ's looking at 3 to 5.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you, if they Embiid Maxey today, and they will. I mean, it's just the way they got to neutralize the best scoring talent on the floor, and right now, Maxey has shown he's the best scoring talent in the series. So they're going to try and neutralize that. That means they're going to throw everybody at him, and they're going to try and hurt that kid. And I'm telling you, PJ's going to be the mall cop. He's going to go out there. somebody's going to get hurt, and it's going to be Tucker that lays somebody out, and they're going to bring out a stretcher and drag him off the field, and he'll just stand in front of the bench and go, bring another one. Come on, just bring another one.
I have a feeling there's going to be
give me that skinny bass at the end of the bench and can't play. Give me that one. Give me that guy.
Give me that guy.
I have a feeling it's going to be like a George Foreman boxing match. It's going to be like, just keep bringing them. Just keep bringing them.
Bring them out.
Dave, what do you think?
Sting like a bee.
What do you think's going to happen?
I think they're going to start out with the muck up. I'm with Frank. But I think early on, and I'm curious. Like I said, Montrez is going to get some in there too. He's chomping at the bits. He wants a piece of him too.
Sure.
I'm looking at 120 to 110 victory, and they're going to throw us our best in the early on. But Harden and Maxey and Tobias will take over.
I think it's going to be closer than that. Actually, Dan, I think it's going to be closer than that. I think you're going to see like a 103-101 game. I think it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a little bit of a sweat. But I think they're going to win, but it's going to be a little bit of a sweat.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be physical too. I agree with that, Frank.
Yeah. Oh, no, I totally expect bully ball. I totally expect it.
Because they have nothing to lose. They're down 3-0. There's nothing left for them.
Right.
That's
I just want Maxey to come out of this unhurt. I want him because I think they could hurt. They can hurt somebody doing this stuff, and that's why I think PJ's going to lay somebody out. I think he's going to lay somebody out.
I think that and it's interesting. During Game 3, I got the feel. And like Frank always tells me this, he's like, the game's not the way that it once was. But like I got the feel of like the 90s basketball, like of the guys like
this is
Dennis
Detroit.
Rodman. Yeah, like the bad boys.
This is
and it's and I just kind of got that feel of that in the game because of the way that certain guys were conducting themselves and the way the Nets were kind of conducting themselves. But the way that Doc,
they got to play that way, Joe. They don't have the talent, so the only option they have left is bully ball.
That's what Doc said, and I felt like that was very prophetic. And you're talking about a guy, and he brought up the Phoenix Knicks series that maybe you and Dame could talk about, but where he got ejected and 7 other guys got ejected too, and
I forgot all about that.
He brought it up in the post game, and honestly, like here's what Doc said that I felt like really like helps the team better understand. And this is the difference between a young coach and a guy who's been around a time or two, especially in the old time. He said, "You guys are up 2-0. What did you expect to have happen? Their backs are against the wall. They're in desperation mode. They're trying to get in your head to make a mistake because they can't outplay you. What did you expect?" Now, again, I go to what Frank's saying. Now they're down. Now they're up 3-0, and now the Brooklyn's even more desperate, which is why I feel like regardless if it's a viable injury or not, you protect Embiid because you already know that they were gunning for him.
They was going to WWF him. If he played today, they're going to, like I said, they would have WWF'd him today. No doubt. No doubt.
So, I mean, for me, I agree with Frank that they could WWE Maxey, and I feel like early on, if someone like a Nick Claxton or, Royce gets in Maxey's face, you're going to see PJ Tucker. You're going to see some people going, no. You're not. Yeah. I honestly think the minute that you see a hostile step towards Maxey, you will see someone laying on the floor. And that's the way that I like, because that's why I think they got PJ Tucker. That's why I think they got Montrezl Harrell. Because if you look at the last season or two, what was one of the big criticisms? That we got pushed around. Okay, now the Nets are coming in to try to push us around. But now we got 2 guys that are going to go, that's not happening to our team. You're not doing that this year. This isn't happening. Y'all do what you do. Maxey, Embiid, Harden, you do what you do. We'll do what we do best, and that is take care of the trash. And that's the difference.
I think if the Sixers weather that storm in the first quarter, and come out at halftime and they're up like 8 or 10 points, Brooklyn's going to roll over.
Well,
yeah,
Brooklyn will
and
roll
the
over.
refs have set the tone too, fellas. In terms of because they've already had meetings about it. The refs are prepared for it as well. We know it's not going to be Tony Brothers' team, so they're going to look. If you see this,
thank God for that.
Away. Yeah,
I have a feeling
they send Tony Brothers up to Boston. Let's hope they send Tony Brothers to Boston.
I have a feeling that
send them overseas.
I have a feeling that the technical fouls will be flying today. I really do. I think early and often they will be flying because I agree with you guys that it's not a hidden secret that this is going to become a very physical, competitive game, and it's going to get chippy early. And this is a reffing unit that wants to try and keep the game under control. So they're going to tee up anybody that even sneezes the wrong way. But we're going to I feel like it's going to be Sixers with a sweep. I feel like it's going to be a 106-102 victory. I feel like it's going to be a little bit of a sweat, but I feel like Maxey I feel like Harden's going to go off for 30 plus, like I said earlier.
I'm with that. I like that, Joe.
But
yeah, I agree.
I also feel like don't be too surprised if Jalen McDaniels and Paul Reed have 2 good games.
I think they'll facilitate those guys inside.
Yeah, that's what I think. But we're going to transition to your Philadelphia Phillies. I really want to start with the road trip, the 4-3 road trip. I want to get your impressions of what you feel, how you feel about the road trip, and what you feel about them now overall. So, James, I'm going to start with you. What did you feel? How do you feel about the road trip, the 4-3 road trip?
Before I get my point of view about this Phillies team, there's something going on Dylan's Bar on May the 13th. It's a 1 to 8 p.m. thing. It's called Philadelphia Day. Basically a wiffle ball mania that they always have every year. This year includes Charlie Manuel, Mickey Morandini, the Philly sports guy, and the Tank himself, Hollis Thomas, will be there from 1 o'clock to 8 p.m. that day. So it all benefits the Eagles Autism Challenge, and I believe there's going to be many more guests along the way. So check them out at dolansbar.com, the best Delco bar in Delco and all in Delaware County. So you can't miss that. So visit www.dolansbar.com, or just go there and be there on May the 13th for the special event on this very day on May the 13th. But yeah, to say something about this Phillies team, I got to be perfectly honest. I'm at a loss for words. I can't even describe I mean, after a World Series last year, you thought you would probably get a chip on your shoulder and say, oh, we didn't get a chance to win that ultimate prize. Now we got to get one step further. I mean, they brought in Trey Turner. I haven't seen him a lot. I haven't seen a lot of Schwarber until last night. I haven't seen a lot of the pitching. It's just I don't even know. I mean, the inconsistency feels like that's been their ebb and flow since probably going back to hard to believe a long time. I mean, maybe I don't want to say the words a fluke yet, but it's just not good, man.
Frank,
it's just not good.
Look, beginning of spring training, this team was rolling. They had a look of a team that was like priming their engines for a run. They had dealt mentally with the fact that they were going to start the season without Harper. Everything was going great. What derailed this train was Rhys Hoskins getting hurt and losing for the season. They were not ready for that, and they didn't have enough time left in spring to recover. Hall goes in the lineup. Hall gets hurt. He's down for 6 weeks. Now they're playing checkers with first base. This is a team that's playing catch up. It has nothing to do with what happened last year at all. It has everything to do with they haven't been able to recover mentally from losing Rhys Hoskins for the season. And if that had happened at the beginning of the spring, if that happened in the second spring training game, they would have dealt with it. but they haven't had time. The team has not had time to process it, and now they're in the midst of a season, and they can't make a deal to fix it without giving up way too much talent to replace Hoskins and Hall. So they're trying to play makeup. I mean, like, to the point where Harper's taking practice at first base. I mean, think about that. You know, I mean, that tells you all you need to know about where their state of mind is. It's the pitching to me. I don't know what the heck they're doing with Nolan, but that kid's head is, I don't know where his head is, but it really looks like it's up his ass right now. I mean, he does not look like the Nola that we've all known before. You know, and I think it's not getting a contract done in the off season with him has definitely hurt his frame of mind. I don't care what he says about them breaking the contract talks off at the end of spring training. It is on his mind, and it is definitely what it's affecting him. Now they won't talk now until the end of the season because that's the line in the sand they drew. I don't know. I mean, the bullpen is starting to come around. Taijuan Walker's starting to look like the guy they traded for. Wheeler's close. I think he's okay. They need Ranger to come back. Ranger comes back, it's going to stabilize a lot. It's really going to stabilize a lot. But that lineup, they haven't been able to figure it out since Reese got hurt, and they need something. But they need Harper back in a big way. That'll stabilize everything. Yeah. But that's what it is. It has nothing to do with them coming in this season thinking they're better. Now their base running mistakes. You know, I just want to hit them with a bat because I mean they're making mistakes that little leaguers don't make. You know, I mean, come on, guys. They've had 7 putouts on the bases this year that have killed rallies.
Lead the league. Yep.
Good Lord.
I mean, that's inexcusable. It's inexcusable that they overlooked that in spring training, which kind of gives me pause about what the hell's going on with that coaching staff. You know, I mean, what the hell are you doing? You know, I heard Ricky Bo talk about it this week. He said, I'm telling you, one day every spring, Vukovic had us out there, the whole team, and that's all we did that day. We did, this is what we do on the bases. This is what you do at first base. Situational. He said, it was the worst day of spring training because it wasn't fun. But he had to reinforce everything that we're supposed to do on the base pass. And he said, it doesn't look like that happened in spring training. And it's disconcerting that this team with this many professionals and good ball players, and I mean, it's not the secondary guys that are making mistakes. I mean, these are guys who have been playing forever, and they're starters, and they're getting themselves thrown out of innings. And it's scary. It's scary to think that they're going to play all season like this.
Yeah.
Dame, what do you think?
Whoa, a couple of things off of what James and Frank said. I agree with Frank. It's really interesting. So they were mentally ready, prepared, knowing Harper wasn't going to start the season with them. To piggyback off with Frank, they were not prepared for Reese Hoskins' injury. Even though he was going to the last year of his contract, they were looking, you know, for his bat in the lineup. He goes down. They Brad Hall, you know, we could fill in. We know what he did for us last year. Then he goes down. So, you know, trades don't happen in the first 2 months of baseball. It just don't happen like that, you know. And there's no getting somebody off the scrap heaps. None of that. That doesn't happen in baseball. So they're in what you call a pickle. The other thing that I find really interesting, I'm going to throw this out to you guys. It's centered around Nola, who I like. I like Nola. I liked him ever since we got him out of LSU. But Nola, and his concern, not concerning, but it's been a thing with him. We could say he, you know, takes a while to get warmed up. You know, takes a few games and he finds his niche. But when he has a lead, he surprisingly enough, they gave him runs for the first time in a while. The other day they were 9-0 in the first inning, and because rarely do they hit for him. One thing that concerns me, Joe, is the Phillies still can't hit with players in scoring position. They still struggle with it.
That's a concern.
Yeah, and I think what we're saying is and I think this is what Frank, James was coming off of. You were hoping coming off the World Series run that you would have a better start, right?
Right.
I mean, look
Right.
at the Braves, as usual, out the gate and freaking running. Now we're in our same position where we're 9-12, having to get to 500, then to get over 500. We understand in baseball, you win a few series, that can happen within a week, week and a half. But the problem now is your rotation. Will is coming around, I agree. Walker's coming around. We need a Suarez back, but I'm really concerned with Nola to this point. Depending on where they are with him and the team, and Joe, Painter's coming back.
Mhm.
So you have Suarez, right? So what if they come back and they go, what can we get for Nola? I don't know. Again, this is a loaded question. It depends on A, James, where we are in the standings, B, where he is, and then C, where our pitching staff is, and could we survive? Because you're asking a Painter, and you have to move someone up, or unless you get someone back, in addition to another everyday player in that trade, be it a pitcher or in addition to an everyday player, if it was to go that route to move Nola.
Yeah. And to
So-
piggyback what you said, though, Dame, I totally agree with. The one thing that really concerns me is that they put Bohm at third base once in a while. They put him back at first base. It's kind of like you're going to have a Scott Kingery effect again.
Yeah, I don't like
That's
it.
the one thing I worry about.
Because he was just getting comfortable with third. I don't like it.
Right. And that's the thing I take about it, too, is that if you switch Bohm from like third to first every once in a while, you're going to screw up his head.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm going to chime in with a couple different things that you guys all mentioned. So first, Frank's right in the sense of
Fuji says he's
Thanks, Fuji.
right there with you.
Right there with you, yep.
So I want to chime in on what Frank was saying about Reese. No, this team was not ready for Reese Hoskins, and then it's like once you had Derek Hall step up, we thought, okay, we can weather the storm with Derek Hall, despite some of Derek's some of his batting issues. But the thing that when Derek Hall went down, now you're really in a pickle. But I think, and I never like to make light of anybody's injury because it's always a hardship when you go through a bad injury like Reese's, but the glass half full, if you're looking at it from a fan's perspective, this could be beneficial if you wanted to get a hometown discount with Reese at the end of the season, because no general manager is going to give him $20 million on any other team. I don't know if they were going to give him $20 million a year before this injury. I definitely know that they're not going to give him $20 million a year after this injury, because there's no guarantee what he's going to be as a player or how effective he's going to be as a player after the injury and the rehab. So that's number one. Number two, the idea of why would we want Reese back? Well, I tell you why. Because with Bryson Stott stepping up, and I'll just make a side note, someone who used to be on this show that said that Bryson Stott wasn't a good ball player. He just broke a Phillies record. He's leading off over Trey Turner. I don't need to say anymore. The guy's batting.
I meant to mention him, Joe. I'm glad you brought him up.
He's leading the league in hits.
He's going, yeah.
He's leading the league in hits.
But if he's not a good ball player, why would he be doing any of that? Anyhow, the idea that Bryson Stott, Alec Baum, and even Marsh, even the guy Marsh, that the Angels gave up on. They said, we can't fix his hitting. He's got 3 home runs this season already. This is a kid that is on pace for a 30 home run season. That's absurd from a guy who's not expected to do that. But I look at all these guys stepping up and then still having Schwarber and then getting Bryce back and Castellanos doing better this year.
Way
JT
better.
trying to be sustainable. You put in Rhys Hoskins into this lineup. I think even if you had Rhys Hoskins in the lineup, if you put him and it be a spit in his face, and I'm not trying to, but just the talent that we have, even if you put him at the 8 hole, he would still thrive. And that's saying something. But that's the one thing. So I do feel like we could get the hometown discount for Rhys in the offseason. Number 2, I want to touch on the Nola thing. I'm out. I'm out on Nola in the sense that I'm not saying trade him because I don't want to lose assets in the farm system. But I would let him play out this year and then take the money we were going to offer him and go get Shohei Ohtani.
It's not going to happen.
That's just my.
That's not going to happen. I'm sorry, Joe.
Now he's going to the Mets, Joe. That's a Mets move.
The Mets don't. No.
The Mets are looking at him. I don't know if it'll happen with the Mets. We're not getting it.
I think it might be more Yankees.
Hear me out.
No, it's Mets. It's Mets.
Think
wow.
about the relationship that has already been bridged between Dabrowski and the GM at the Angels. Think about the relationship that he has already tried to bridge with the Marsh deal, with all the other stuff. There's communication there. And where there's smoke, there's fire. And I feel like the Angels aren't going to have a say in the matter, but there's a inside lane that Dabrowski might have to being able to say, now, whether you want to call it tampering or whatnot, there is a inside track that Dabrowski might have in what Ohtani might want. And this is going to give the Phillies an advantage over other teams. And ask yourselves the question, if you had your druthers, if you had your choice, Aaron Nola or Shohei Ohtani, if you're paying a pitcher $30 million a year, if you had a choice between paying one pitcher or the other $30 million a year, which one are you picking?
I love you, Joe, but here's the problem with that.
It's first of all, I go ahead.
Joe.
Go ahead, Dave. You go first. I'll go second.
Joe, you're my Joe. Joe, I honestly, man, I'm not. I get it because I go big, but listen, this guy and Frank knows this is expected to break the bank in baseball.
He's not expected to. He's definitely breaking the bank.
1, because of what he does. 2, because he's a name, and I just don't see us having that. We just don't have it.
Look, I
don't have it.
I think that the Phillies have the money to do it. I don't think there's a shortage of money that to do it.
It's not that they don't have it; they're not willing to pay that kind of money for that. That's more what I'm trying to say.
No, well, no. It's going to cost, Joe, $500 million.
Yeah,
$500 million to get Ohtani.
Yeah.
Okay?
Isn't it worth
And
it?
let me finish. Let me finish. He's going to be $50 million a year, not 30. He's going to get $50 million a year. All right. Is he worth it? Every nickel. You got Babe Ruth in your lineup. The guy can win 20 games and hit you 40 home runs. I'm sorry, but yeah, he's worth it. The difference is, will they pay that for him? And I don't think they will, because they've already committed a lot of money to this team. What I think is more possible is that once Ohtani leaves the Angels, Mike Trout's going to say, "I want out of here," and then they could make a deal for Trout.
Hold up. How are you going to quantify Mike Trout's contract is $400 million, almost that $500 million.
How much is left on it? How much is left on it?
A lot. It's still like 300.
Not $400 million.
Not 400.
There's like $260 million left. I mean, he just gave that kind of money to no. I totally believe that they would look at that and go, okay, he's got 7 years left on his contract. Gee, 7 years kind of fits with what everything else we're doing here. You know, I can see that happening before I can see them signing Ohtani. And the Mets are going to sign Ohtani. That Cohen is not going to be outbid. If Cohen has to spend $600 million, he'll do it. But what he will do is completely screw his team for the next 2 decades.
Yeah.
They're-
Well,
I mean, the Mets they may have the best pitcher and position player in baseball on their team, but they will not win. They will not win.
Didn't they just pay their closer who's out for the season like $125 million or something absurd?
Yes. I know a lot of Mets fans because like I go up to this spot in Bayonne, and they are not happy. They're not happy with what the Giants did. They're not happy with what the Mets did. They are not happy people. And one guy says, "We're going to get Ohtani." I said, "What does that do?" And I said, "You're the Mets." I said, "You're going to find a way. You're going to find a way to get this guy, and you're still not going to win. You're the Mets, and until that changes, you're the Mets."
I go back to Mets fans when I lived in New York in '88 up until '94 when I used to work at the World Trade Center. They are never happy. But I'll tell you one thing. So here's the other reason why I see him going to the Mets. It's marketing. They got to get him out of California. It's easier for baseball to market him in New York than it is with the Angels. It just is.
Baseball doesn't market anybody, Dame.
I know.
Baseball doesn't market anybody.
No, you're right, Frank.
Yeah.
They don't care. But what I am saying is, as far as let me rephrase that. As far as television and all that, it's better for them to have him over with the Mets than it is for the Angels. You're right. The baseball does not market anybody.
No. Would he be even better?
If they did, Trout would have been the biggest draw in baseball for the last 5 years.
You're right.
Would it be even more beneficial for him to go to the Yankees?
Yeah, but the Yankees
nothing. There's nothing beneficial about him going to New York for us. Nothing. I don't want to see him in New York. Okay, but that's going to happen. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's going to happen. It's where he's going to wind up because that's where the money is. And I mean,
right.
The Phillies could pay the money, but they're not going to screw their team for the next 20 years. They're just not going to do it. And that's what that would do.
And Frank, here's what I'm saying, and you know this because your brother does Broadway. That market for him, now other people will come at him. Just being in New York, you understand what I'm saying?
He'll be a billionaire in 2 years.
His agent is looking at it going, New York, one of the entertainment capitals. Let's do it, right? So it's bigger than baseball, and that's what I was kind of alluding to. That's one of the reasons.
It's bigger than baseball.
It's bigger than baseball for him.
So
many levels.
So I'm going to
ask for the whole nine.
I'm going to go and switch a little bit with this. So one of the things I've been thinking about with the Phillies, and I think I brought this up in the beginning of the season because I was just curious where people would be mindset-wise if this were to happen. Now it looks like if the trend is going the way that it's going for the Phillies, it probably could go that way. What would be the mindset in your mind of the Philadelphia Phillies sports team with the fans and everything like that if this team goes 21-29 this season? Like, would we be in the same angst that we were last season when we were 21-29? Frank,
no.
I'm going to start with you.
No, and I'll tell you why. It's a different team than that team last year. That team was fully healthy and went into the season 21-29. Okay, there was no reason for them to be 21-29 other than the guy who was pushing the buttons behind the bench. They were not happy playing for that guy. They like playing for okay. The difference is they're missing some bullets in the gun, and they're missing some big bullets. You just look at their home run totals. I mean, you remember a year ago I gave you home run projections for the team and how they would finish, right? Well, the same can be said this year. Well, I think the team at this point has maybe 21 home runs. They're like 22nd in the league or 23rd in the league in home runs. You know, there's huge. They have 80 home runs out of their lineup right now. 80 home runs.
Yeah.
This is huge. His 80 home runs and like 260 runs batted in are not in their lineup right now.
Right, I was
And
about to
this
say,
is the
yeah.
problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the
About to say,
problem. You know,
yeah.
and it wasn't a problem in spring training until Reese got hurt. Okay, and Reese getting hurt completely messed that lineup up because now Robbie doesn't know how to play the lineup the way he wants to play the lineup, and until they get now when they get Harper back, and it looks like Harper's going to come back. I'd said May. He's coming back in May. He's going to be back to play in May. He's not waiting till June or July. He's coming back in May. And
What is that guy made of? I mean, seriously, what is this guy made of?
You remember that Stretch Armstrong toy when you were a kid?
Yeah.
Apart, like ping, it pops back together. That's him. He's Stretch Armstrong.
Guys throwing guys throwing 60 feet already. Like the guy is not supposed to be back until July, and he's throwing
he'll be back
in April.
Yep,
like,
he'll be
what the
back
hell
in
is
May.
this guy? Like, is he got kryptonite in his arms? Like, what the hell is going on?
I'm telling you, he's Stretch Armstrong.
Joey,
You know,
he's got kryptonite. He's Stretch Armstrong.
Dame,
Kryptonite would be bad.
where's your feelings with if this team were to go 21-29? Where would your head be at?
I'm kind of like where James is. The Phillies, man. I can't freaking put a pulse on them.
Right.
Let me give you an example. The team we just talked about started out in December at 12-12. They finished up the season at 42-16. The Sixers, right? And everybody panicked at 12-12. They had the best record from that point on. And I hate to do this, but I got it. I know it's two different sports. We understand that. But when Harden was out and Embiid was out for, they kind of found their identity with those other players.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to what Frank says, and I gotta ride this. It's like they can't find an identity. Thompson's juggling with the lineup. Thank goodness Stott's doing what he's doing. I'm not Turner's been up and down, Joe. I just need to see some sense of identity so that when Harper does come in, you're not putting everything on him. Because right now, this is what this is being set up for. Oh, Harper will be back. Let's ride him. That's not the way to do it. As great as he is, as great as Stretch is, right? But we can't stretch him out, so far that we have to wait till Reese is not coming back. Boom. Now, Hall is. Brad Hall will return possibly June, July. So that's good.
About 4 more weeks.
But in the meantime, Nola's got to step it up. It's got to. See, this is where your greats come in. Hey, man, you want that contract? You know Harper's out. You know Reese is out. Let me go out there and ball. That's what it is with me with that. I just hit me. You're the guy that needs to step up. You're the guy that needs to step up and go out there and pitch your behind off. And so we want to go into our bullpen as early, and then others will follow. So I'm kind of Joe. I'm like,
well, I know this. I look at Nola pitch. I don't think Nola did the work in the offseason because his fastball is not there. His fastball is not there. Nope. And if his fastball is not there, he's up in the zone.
He's nibbling, Frank.
And
he's not. I can't stand the nibbler. I can't stand the nibbler.
He's nibbling because he doesn't have the back end explosion on his fastball this year.
Yeah.
Which tells
his cutter isn't cutting.
He didn't do the work. He didn't do the work in the offseason.
His cutter is flat.
It's all flat because he doesn't have.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the kid didn't work in the offseason. I don't know what the hell he's thinking. But I needed a guy to go at the end of the playoffs last year and go, I got to do better than this, or we're never going to get over the top. And he came back and he showed me he didn't do any work. He didn't put any work in. So guess what, Joe? Guess what? I'm showing him the door. I'm going to take the best deal I can at the trade deadline and show him the door. And that will open up. Maybe that'll open up some money to get. Maybe at the trade deadline,
Frank, I don't know if
you could trade him and Castellanos to the Angels and get Ohtani here on a the end of the season deal. Then maybe you can work some magic and get him signed.
Frank,
I'm
I
gonna
don't know
wave
if
the
you
white
stepped away,
flag.
Frank. I proposed that. That's because you got Painter coming
Yeah.
back. Suarez is going to step it up. He'll be back in. So
And keep in mind, you're going to have
that may
Abel
happen.
in a year or two that's going to be coming up. So you have pitching prospects.
Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani could be a guy that could be a spot starter and be your everyday outfielder if you
He's-
wanted him to be.
Spot starter, Joe. He's number 2 in the spot starter. Are you kidding me? He plays.
Try to take it easy on the guy. I try to take it
Come on,
easy
man.
on the start.
That's Babe Ruth.
But
Babe Ruth,
so
I'm sorry, but he's Babe Ruth.
one
Mike
of the
Laura
things,
Chick said before we go any further, it's just I think the Phillies will be okay, but Noah might be trade bait by July.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he
Yeah.
is
Could
too.
be.
I think he's
I
gone.
said that, Frank. Yeah.
and
I think
here's
he's
my
gone.
thing. My feeling before we move on, my feeling about what you're saying, Dame, about Nola is it's kind of the same feeling of why I feel like Reese was so emotional about being out for the season, because this is a guy that you could tell has strong ties to this city and strong ties to this team, regardless of what other people say
I'm a
about
Reese
him and
fan.
feeling about. Right.
Yeah.
My feeling is he wanted to prove something this year.
Yeah.
He had something to prove, and he had that taken away. And sometimes that that affects you a little bit more mentally. But that's why I also feel like he's not going to want to go anywhere. And I mean, as much as people want to see him go somewhere else because of the frustrations that he gives us, I just don't see him wanting to. I see him
Believe it or
working
not,
with
Joe.
Dombrowski.
Believe it or not, Reese can be ready to play the second week of September with that injury. He could be back for the end of the season. He could be.
I would love to see what the lineup's going to look like too, because that's a murderer's row.
You're going to get a chance to see it. I think he could be back for the end of the season, and if he's that fired up about staying here, you might see something, because I mean that's happened before in baseball, where guys come in at the end of the season and having a season-ending injury and finish it. I think who was it that did it recently? Somebody did it recently. I can't remember who. They were out with a season-ending injury, came back at the end of the year and played lights out in the playoffs. So that could happen.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, like I don't care. I mean, he might care, but I don't care because of how the murderer's row of the lineup is right now. When Harp comes back, even if Reese is in the 7 or 8 hole, dude, just do you. Because for me, it's like if he's at the 7 or 8, that means all that other talent and powers in front of him, he could really thrive there. He could live there. I'm almost reminiscent of when Chooch was batting 8 or 9, 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And when that turnover was there, that really propelled the lineup because it could turn the lineup over easier. But we're going to switch gears to your Philadelphia Eagles. We are less than a week away from the NFL draft.
Right.
And I just wanted to tell people that are tuning in, please tune in. We have a great lineup coming up this coming week. The Painted Lines, along with EOP. As far as I know, the agreement with some of the Eagles Green Nation and Fox Sports The Gambler, there are things that are going to be happening in the next week that are going to be really exciting for EOP, really exciting for Philadelphia. Please tune in on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the wrap-up show will be Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. We're still working out the time for the wrap-up show for the draft. So it's going to be wall-to-wall EOP and NFL draft coverage. Also, please check out EOPsports.com for all draft articles, videos, YouTube channel with all breakdowns. screw Mel Kiper and all those guys. They never get it right anyhow. So you should just stay tuned right here on the EOP network for your live NFL draft coverage.
Before I go any further, that's a great line to say there. We got a great lineup with EOP, like you said this week, like Joey just mentioned. We got Monday with the Sully Squad, Tuesday Talking Sports with Matty B, Chalk Talk with Dibes and them, also Fighting's Final every game of the season. I mean, God bless Matty B for doing that. I can't believe he still wants to do this after the agony of this Phillies team. Philly Press Box Radio, EOP Sports on Wednesdays. And Thursdays is the attacking third with my brother Pat Bernard and I talking Union. And Fridays is again with Chalk Talk Pattison Avenue Fanatics today, and PM and the AM tomorrow on the same time and place with Pat and Mike on Sundays at 9 a.m.
So I want to quote or paraphrase a quote that Howie had talked about earlier. So first off, I want to do this. Jalen Hurts contract extension, 5 years, $255 million, 179.5 guaranteed. No trade clause, low cap hit. Guys, this was a deal that was orchestrated in my mind well before the announcement ever came out. And my feeling is that this was a great deal. As much as all the grumblings around Philadelphia is now we're not going to have a good team because we overpaid for a quarterback. I want to get your takes on Jalen Hurts' new contract. Frank, go ahead.
I think he took a very team-friendly deal, at least in the first 2 years of it, and enables the Eagles in the first 2 years to redo the contracts of his targets, his two best wide receivers, without affecting the salary cap much. I think it says that now. I talked to a lot of, like I told you, I talked to a lot of Giants fans, a lot of Mets fans. Like, I'm up in North Jersey a lot, and they were giggling that the Eagles paid him too soon. I went, you mean sooner than Daniel Jones? You mean that soon? I said, Daniel Jones is going to cost you $40 million against your cap next year.
Remind me, Frank, did Daniel Jones go to the Super Bowl? Remind me. Did he?
No, he didn't. Oh, and I pointed out to him, I said, and by the way, you put a franchise tag on Saquon. So all your money's tied up with those two guys. So good luck being in fourth place, because that's what's going to happen. And I said, the Eagles have structured his contract, to keep the team competitive and playing, at least for the next 4 years. And this is what they've done with their offensive line. It's like they just redid Jordan Mailata's contract. I think I look at what Howie does, and if Jalen Carter isn't there at 10, they're going to trade out of that pick. They're not going to take Bijan Robinson unless they draft back down to like 16, 18. Okay, they will not use that pick to take Bijan Robinson. They
we're going to get to that. We're going to get into that in a minute, because when they had the press conference with Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman about the Hurts contract extension, I picked up on some things Howie was saying, and I kind of I took some notes about it. Dane, what do you think about the Jalen Hurts contract extension?
A couple of things. I picked up some things too, Joey, about that press conference, and we'll get to that. I thought it was a great contract for him and the team. So here's the difference. People were upset when they didn't sign C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and a lot of it, Frank, you know this, was I found out, and Joe, I'm sure you heard too, they were questioning his character. They were afraid to give that young man that type of money, even though they did make an offer, maybe not exactly what he wanted, because of character. And I use him as an example because he was an Eagle in the most recent situation where myself and others wanted him resigned, but I'm okay with that. When you look at Jalen, you could never question his work ethic. You would never question the guy was in James. He was in the facility the day after the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
That's not that's a fact. He was in the facility and not just cleaning out his locker room. This kid, this young man, we're blessed to have him. The other thing that I like about the contract, Joe, and how he's known for this, two things: the no trade clause, but the 179 guarantee. So what happens, Frank, is when they get close to year 5, depending on where they are, depending on where the cap is, he then goes, oh, you're due. Hopefully we have at least 1, if not 2 Super Bowls in our arsenal with him, right? He then goes, oh, I can restructure that and give you an additional 3 years, 3 with the 4th year option. So when you break it down, and I'm not going to sit up here and pretend that you guys understand the cap, because I don't, but I do understand how he's been able to work the cap. That I get. And so it doesn't hurt us, Giant fans, because the Eagles, and I can't remember the last time, and Frank, Joe, James, maybe I can't remember the last time they used a franchise tag on anybody. I just can't. They rarely, if at all, do that. And so that jams you up, like Frank was alluding to.
You're handcuffed.
So it handcuffs you. So they got him correct. Now, yes, now the other players that we drafted last year, they have to step up. This year's players have to step up. And that gives us that window. And we have more draft picks next year to bring that in. And we all know Howie is a wheel and dealer with trade. So great contract. That's taken care of. No need to worry about that. We're settled with our franchise quarterback. And no, folks, this is not Carson Wentz. This is not Wing.
Okay, we're going to touch that.
Let's not talk about the Ginger Jesus. We're not going to talk about the Ginger Jesus.
We're going to.
Joe, we could draft the quarterback in the 5th round, and our guy wouldn't worry about that. That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to get into that in a minute. I'm going to let James talk about the contract extension, and I'm going to chime in on all of that. James, what do you think about the Jalen Hurts contract extension?
I think it's a great move. I think it's a very smart move by Howard to finally get this all done. But the one thing I like about what Hurts has done even last year showed me a lot of poise. If we probably let's say, for example, if Hurts was a flash in the pan and just he didn't work out right, and we have to draft another quarterback. I look at the quarterbacks that are out there in this draft. There's not one guy that says, "Oh, I like to get this guy. I like to get that guy. I like to get this guy." Jalen's just. I got to be honest. I was completely wrong about him, and I'm really glad I was wrong about him because I was one of those guys that, like you said, Damon, I was a Carson Wentz believer. I was on the Let the Bronco Buck Foundation, one of those people that thought Wentz was I think we paid a little too much. Yeah. And I think when Hurts came in, I was like, wait, they're gonna just ship off Carson Wentz out of here? What the hell is that supposed to mean? But then I started to realize, Carson Wentz has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder for being a little bit edgy on his ego. And he's a princess. Instead of being the Ginger Jesus, he's just the devil's advocate. If that's the right word to say it. But
he's not everywhere he's
the Hurts thing, so. I do really like. I think it's a great move.
So
played himself out of the league. He's done it everywhere he's gone. So he's played.
I think he's going to retire.
So one of the things I want to say first off is shout out to Freddie Burns. When my debut on this network was on draft night number 2, the year that Jalen Hurts got drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, including Freddie Burns and Al and Al Thompson, were all like, well, this was a mistake. We're the quarterback factory. You draft him this high when you have Carson Wentz. And I'm out of all four of us, the four of us, I was the guy that was waving the Jalen Hurts flag from the gate because I saw his stats. I saw what he brought to the table with two good programs. And the thing that stood out to me was like the 100 total touchdowns and the completion percentage, which I was saying to James before we came on, I don't know who started the narrative that Jalen is not an accurate thrower. He had a 62.5% completion percentage throughout his 4 years in college, which is absurd considering the divisions, the conferences he was playing in, the level of talent. That's not an easy thing.
Right.
So that's one thing. So I want to first say shout out to Freddie Burns because this is kind of like an anniversary week for me of debuting on this network. And I came out, just like you guys all know me, I came out firing because for me, it was a matter of I saw talent. And at the time, New England was saying that they wanted a new quarterback. And there were two other teams behind us that were saying that they were going to want a new quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like Jalen was going to last to the third round. And I know everyone's like, well, he should have been picked in the third round. Okay, hindsight being 2020. Are we now all sitting here after we just extended him, after we have all the faith in the world in him, are we now sitting here saying we reached when we gave money to Carson Wentz and picked him second overall and traded up to get him? And he's going to, like Frank said, he's not going to be relevant in the league for forever, for anymore. And so for me, it's a matter of
he's a backup.
So for me, it's a matter of Howie had the foresight, and even if I wasn't a Howie Roseman fan back then, I at least respected what Hurts brought to the table. So I mean, I at least respected what Hurts brought to the table. Now, one of the things that I could say is that with Hurts, the thing that steps out to me with this contract is that, and Howie said this, is that he signed the contract, turned to Howie and said, how can I be better? How can I be better for this team? This guy's not worried about the money. He's worried about what the next season brings. This is the diamond, whether you want to call it the quarterback factory. Okay, what a factory does is it keeps churning out things, and then sometimes you're going to have crap parts and crap cars, and sometimes you're going to have a really pristine car. We have a pristine car now, and we have signed it for 5 more years, 6 total seasons left with Jalen Hurts at the helm. And this is a guy who's going to get better. If you saw the leaps forward that he's taken from a year or so ago in 2021 to what he took in 2022. Now imagine what he's going to take in 2023. Just keep seeing the progress, because understand he was 2 plays away from winning a Super Bowl from Patrick Mahomes. 2 plays.
Yeah.
My feeling.
I look at.
Go ahead, Frank.
Go ahead. No, finish. Go.
So my feeling is that not only was this a deal worth gold in the long run. This is my friend who's from Villanova, who's a Citizens Bank manager for 2 different branches. He went to Villanova Finance. I asked him to break down this contract, and he said, understand something. The salary cap goes up 20% each season. So if you subtract 20% of what Jalen makes annually from the salary cap, that's how they're going to save money, is because Howie knows that as the cap goes along, he's going to save money. So this is going, because think about Joe Burrow when he gets his contract, Herbert when he gets his contract. They're going to want the same amount of money that Hurts is, but they're going to wait a year or two to get it, which means their price tag goes up, their annuals go up, and now Jalen's sitting going, oh, I'm only making $51 million a year. Okay, I'm like 10th in the league by year 4. Okay. Go ahead, Frank.
Well, every quarterback that signs a deal now becomes the highest paid quarterback in football.
Yep.
And then after they sign their deal and the next guy signs it, they drop down. I look at it this way. And this is, I mean, I'll be the first to tell you that I wasn't completely on board with Jalen. You know this from last year that before the season started, I was like, I got to, everything else about him is great. I got to see the arm. And he demonstrated in the first 3 games. That's it. His arm's there. I'm totally on board. I was totally on board at game 3. And this is the way I look at it. You know, I've seen a lot of football in my life. I've seen a lot of dynasties in my life. And I always kept thinking, when's it going to be our turn? You know, I mean, like the Steelers, the Dolphins had their turn. The Cowboys had their turn. The Steelers had their turn. Redskins had their turn. 49ers had their turn. The Patriots sickeningly had their turn for an entire decade. When's it,
2 decades.
When's it going to – yeah, really, 2 decades. When's it going to be our turn? And I thought when Donovan was here that was it.
Yeah.
But Donovan demonstrated that he didn't do the work that he needed to do. And I think that Joe Banner kind of handcuffed us with his approach to managing a team.
Yep.
I think it's our turn. I truly believe it's our turn. And
So,
I truly believe by the end of this contract, when Jalen will only be 29 years old, the Eagles will have been in at least 2 more Super Bowls, and we'll have at least one of those.
Yeah.
And Howie has structured this team to be there for that. And you know, I know that Matty hates Howie, but you know, I got to tell you something. By the time Howie's done, Howie's going to be a Hall of Fame GM.
Yes. Yeah.
He's absolutely going to be a Hall of Fame GM. And I mean, he's respected around the league, and they do deals with him. He's starting to look to me like the football version of Danny Ainge. You love to have him, you hate to deal with him.
Yeah.
And if he pulls something off on draft day, which I think he is, and you know what you're going to see? If he pulls off what I think he's going to pull off, Buda Baker's going to be playing safety for the Eagles.
So I want to get into that. I'm going to get into that, and a couple things that I want to like touch on. So there was a press conference, and Howie Roseman said something that caught my attention, and I'm going to paraphrase. He basically said, "When we pick at 10 or 30, you want to in the first round. You don't want to miss, and you want to get a unique player. That's our objective: is getting a unique player." Does that mean getting a unique player within a specific position? No. That doesn't mean that we're looking at just one position and saying if this guy's there, this is who we're going to get. We look at unique players from every position and say if they're available and they're there, can they help our team now? And
well, I got a question with that, Joe. Give me a second here.
Okay, go ahead.
The last 20 years, and quite a few of those years, Howie's been involved. The Eagles have picked exactly 4 positions in the draft in the first round. 4. In 20 years, these are the only 4 positions they take in the first round. Defensive line, offensive line, quarterback, wide receiver. They have not drafted out of the...
I love you because you set me up. Thank you. So this is what I took away.
But what I'm trying to say is that's where his unique player argument falls apart to me.
Okay. Maybe he has those 4 positions at the top of his board. Maybe those are the guys, the positions he's going to lean towards. But maybe he does have like other guys like a Bijan and whatnot on the board because you have to be objective. Well, he's got to be objective. I mean, let's be real. He needs to be objective. He can't just say, well, these are the 4 guys. Like, he has to pick the top 4 out of those 4 positions. So he can't have just 4 guys for 2 picks. So he's got to be objective. What I took away from that comment was that guy, like, and I know people are going to probably not like me for saying this because it's not the sexy pick, but a guy like Saransky, a guy that can plug in with the offensive guard and then slide over to like a tackle position every once in a while to give Lane Johnson a blow. This is what I think goes on, and Frank brings up a great point. So if Jalen Carter's not there, you're not going to – people who would be yelling at their television to pick up Bijan Robinson, I think they're going to be disappointed because I really do feel like they're going to pick an offensive lineman at that point to kind of supplement their strength, and it's going to be like, what are you doing? Well, there's something that was said to me that made a lot of sense, and that is offensive lineman is on the field all the time on an offensive set. A defensive lineman is rotational. There's more that you can get out of an offensive lineman that you pick that's a high pick at 10 or 30 than there would a defensive lineman. I'm not saying Jalen Carter's bad. I'm just saying if Jalen's not there, they're not going to reach for defensive linemen just for the sake of doing it. However, I'm going to say this. I would not be surprised if Howie has his eyes on a specific unique player that because he feels like he could get away with trading down that 10 and still getting that unique player and maybe trading to get like a Buda Baker. I could see that happening. And I want to get your takes. Do you feel like Howie stays at 10 and 30? Do you feel like he trades? And what do you think it's going to be for picks or just a player? Do you think there's going to be an A.J. Brown trade again this year?
Well, the Buda Baker deal would be an AJ down. That would be the trade this year.
So
he will not draft 2 picks in the first round. He will not draft 2 picks in the first round. That's with the salary structure.
So a couple of things for me, and listening to that press conference, he said something I've been saying. He said, "Right now we're not in position for a need." Those were his exact words.
Right. Yes, right. I heard that.
I took that as saying is this. Yes, they always want to replenish the offensive defensive line. That's been their mantra. It's particularly the offensive line since Andy Reid's inception as a coach of this team. I get it. I get it. I get it. But hey, Frank, we're about to go. Bijan Robinson will be drafted at number 10 come Thursday. Here's my reason. Looking at this kid, he's a little bit taller than Scott. He's the perfect piece to what this offense needs today. He's not going to trade down at 10 because it's rare for a Super Bowl contending team to have a top 10 draft pick, let alone two first round picks. This is why I'm saying he's setting up to get out the box. Yeah, everybody, this is what the Eagles are going to do. And people are so adamant as if you're going to go to jail for taking a running back at 10. Oh, my God, you're going to get locked up because I took a running back at 10? No. You take this kid at 10 because of what we already have. The Eagles are not the Giants trying to build around a running back, a.k.a. Saquon Barkley. No knock on Saquon. We have the tools to plug this guy in today to help us get to the next level, to win the Super Bowl, to go out against the Chiefs so that we can preserve Jalen without having to do the run pass options. Nah, man, I'm putting my chips on this kid. I think Howie's got everybody looking this way, but if that kid drops, he's ours, and he should be ours because, one, you can get offensive, defensive linemen if he trades out the 30th pick, you can get those guys in the second and third round. They're not going anywhere. And the fact that we have more draft picks coming next year, we can still replenish those offensive defensive line. Bijan. Joe.
Dame, you're gonna be a little disappointed. Because they will not take a running back that high. Now,
I'm with you on that, dude.
They may trade out of that spot, and they still may get Bijan, but they ain't getting them at 10, and nobody above them is taking Bijan. Nobody in the top 15 is taking Bijan because running backs just ain't worth that money no more. They're just not worth that value.
But
Other
Frank,
positions,
this
is why the Eagles have drafted the way they've drafted. The Eagles have drafted foundational building blocks, not sexy pick. Like that's a sexy pick.
Control that running back for those 5 years within, and then when it's time for his contract to be up, we'll see what's up. I don't know.
But he's a running back, Dame. He's a running back. Running backs get beat up.
Yeah,
running backs get beat. They get beat up. Okay, when Eagles pick a guy in the first round, that guy's not leaving for 10 years. You're not giving Bijan an extension. He's not getting 10 years here. He's just not. When you use that pick, the reason they only pick those 4 positions is because guess what? Those 4 positions are lifetime players on this team.
But Frank,
running backs are not. If that was true, they would have re-signed Miles.
Frank,
because Miles still got gas in his tank.
Okay, I agree. But here's the difference: is Miles is not a Sirianni guy. We know that. The thing that he was.
No, come on, man. No, stop.
No.
Stop.
But
stop right there.
But no. But listen, what I'm saying. Listen, what I'm saying. Hold it. So to your point, they get their first round pick the last 10 years. But if this first round pick can get me 2 Super Bowls within those 5 years, I'm saying I'll take the 2 Super Bowls over a guy that's going to be here for 10 years and may get me 1, if not no Super Bowls.
There's a kid in Alabama who could help the Eagles in their pursuit a lot better than Bijan can because he's better out of the backfield catching the football than Bijan is. Okay? Bijan is not Barkley. Bijan is not Ezekiel. He's not that good. He's not King Henry. He's not that good a back. He's a good back. He's probably the best back in the draft. But there's a nice guy in the number 2 spot in running backs who's playing in Alabama. They can get him in the second round and fill all the needs that the Eagles need to get done.
But Bijan hasn't played behind his O-line, Frank.
Yeah, that's it. But that kid in Alabama can play, man. That kid can play.
Yeah, he can play. I agree.
Right.
I would not mind him being the fallback position in the second round, and the Eagles trading out of the 10 spot, garnering drafts that they don't have in the middle, and getting another first-round pick next year. Because next year they're going to be loaded. They're going to be loaded come draft day. Yeah. And if they go in loaded, they're going to have 2 seconds. They're going to have 2 thirds. I think they have 3 fourths. And if they go in with 2 firsts,
and it's better talent, Frank. It's better talent next year too.
I think he's going to flip that so he gets another pick for next year and another pick in the upper half of the draft for next year. I wouldn't be surprised if the team up. He is setting the team up for it to be our turn, Dame, and taking Bijan would ruin that opportunity.
I'm going to let James comment, but yeah. I'm going to go about this too, Frank. When you say that, it's that there's 12 picks next year. And I feel like if he trades a first, and I'll touch on this after James, but you could be looking at like 14 picks, and people are going to be like, well, you're not going to pick 14 people, and he's not.
No.
But he packages those to get quality picks, so that way can make moves. Right, he can make moves. Right. So James, I'm going to ask you the same question. Like, do you think that Howie stays at 10 and 30? What do you think about the comments that Howie had said about picking a unique player?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the thing I take out of it too is that I don't think Bijan Robinson is going to be at number 10. I mean the thing that everybody's so hyped about, like I don't mean to be tardy to your party, Dame. I'm sorry to be.
No, it's all good. It's all
but
good.
I just don't see Bijan Robinson to be a good fit here. I think Gibbs is a good player that I look at too, from Alabama, McIntosh from Georgia, obviously, that I did an article during the week on. But like that first round, that number 10 pick, I think they're going to go definitely for that offensive lineman. So what's his name? Skowronski?
Or the edge rusher.
From Northwestern, the kid from Northwestern.
Yeah, the Northwestern kid. Yeah. That's
I
think
Carter's
that's
there. They're taking Carter.
Jalen Carter's there probably too, but I think I think it might be more defensive. I mean, the defensive front is going to be more come like first. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a defensive draft. I've been saying that, but then again, it could be offensive line draft. Could be a little bit defensive front. But if the players are there, like Howie's going to do whatever he can to make hay with it. But like I said, I don't think Bijan is like going to be a good fit here. I just don't.
This is how
he's a good fit. He'd be a good fit. He'd be a good fit, James. He would absolutely be a good fit.
Yeah,
he would make this offense unbelievably dynamic. It's already a good offense.
Yeah, no question.
He would make it unbelievably. Gibbs would do the same thing. Gibbs would do the same thing. But there's no way that Howie, the way he respects the capital involved with how first round picks are weighed, okay? There's no way he's going to spend that first round pick on a running back, because that first round pick at the end of 5 years is done. And when Howie picks a guy in the first round, it's somebody that they can play for 20 years or 10 years. That's exactly what that's the way the Eagles go about it. That's just what they do.
So this is how
look. If Carson Wentz, let me tell you something.
No.
If he wasn't,
I'll take this, Frank. Carson Wentz put us in a position to win a Super Bowl. I'm going to always give that guy that credit. Always give him credit.
Let me ask you a question, Dave. If he hadn't gone short circuit in his head at the end of year 2, did you see this team playing without Carson Wentz for the next 8 years?
No, absolutely. No, absolutely.
Okay. Well, the kid,
yeah.
A wire came off. Nick Foles kind of disconnected his wires in his head, and that was it. He was done.
I think Carson Wentz and Ben Simmons lived in the same neighborhood and drank the same water.
Dude, we thought both
Carson
of those guys were our future, and they went off the freaking. We go off the rails. They don't have tracks built for those dudes.
No, I think the Nick Foles finishing the job for Wentz did him in. He was done.
So
there was a picture a few years ago that I don't know who put it up there, but it was Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, and like Jalen Hurts, I think it was against the Saints or something, and Carson Wentz looked like he was like, "Get me out of here now," his face was like. I really do believe he really caused a conflict with Foles. I never did before, but once I saw that face, I said, maybe that whole thing about Carson Wentz having some being a jealous SOB towards Nick Foles is
he's a princess.
It probably came true.
No, James, you're right.
Nobody liked him in the locker room.
No,
James,
Alshon couldn't stand him.
Right, and I know, Joe, you got to get to your point. You know what Howie did? Because of that damn snip Chip Kelly and his energy, Howie was like, now that I'm back in position, this will not happen in my locker room ever again.
It was a wake-up call.
And you guys, I didn't notice when talking to you, that Carson, I don't like that term cancer. I don't like that term when people use that because I know people who have cancer. But he was poison, if you will, to the locker room. Yeah. And he was like, I'm going to end this now. And I want to ask you guys this. I think they saw something in Jalen before he even was inserted into that starting lineup. I'm talking about not just his presence in the locker room, but his play on the field in the locker room that gave them away, like, you know what? We're going to take a shot with this kid. When Doug was still here.
They want to go to war with Hurts than they never did with Wentz.
Yeah.
And that's like, here's my feeling about the draft, and I'm going to touch on Carson, and then we'll wrap up. But one of the things with the draft, and this is what I'll say, there was a telltale sign to me, Frank, at least, and I'm not saying that with Bijan or Gibbs, but something that Nick Sirianni said at the end of the season that made me think, okay, they're going to at least entertain the option of a running back early in the draft. because Nick Sirianni said after the Super Bowl he wants to have a bell cow running back on this team. Now, listen, like it or hate it, Howie and Nick work in tandem. That they are two heads of the same body. And that's important for a franchise to be successful. My feeling is I don't have as much confidence in Gibbs as I do Bijan. And only because he's from Alabama, Alabama is more pass happy than run happy. I feel like there is maybe an overhype to Gibbs. I'm not saying that behind his offensive line he wouldn't thrive. Any running back, I mean, I think Rashad Penny's going to thrive because of the offensive line. I think Boston Scott and Gainwell are going to thrive because of the offensive line. I think much of what Miles Sanders accomplished when here was because of the offensive line. This is one of the reasons why I feel like I don't know if you have to go and get a Bijan to prove a point, but I know that there's going to be a conversation if he's there at 10. I know there's going to be a conversation if Howie trades that 10 before and trades down, and Bijan's still there. I know there's going to be a conversation then. But whether or not Howie pulls the trigger, because Howie's a smart guy, he knows what you know about that market for running backs isn't there in the NFL. Would it be a mistake? I don't know if it's the smart play. I would rather, especially before next season's draft, I would rather shore up the trenches because you can get the sexier picks next year. You can get all the guys that you want in athletic players. The cupboards may seem bare this year, but they're not going to be for very long. In regards to Carson Wentz, I would say this. This is how I feel when it comes down to Carson. I feel like when Jalen took over, you saw during the Saints game, you saw during the Arizona game, you saw during the Packers game. You saw the offensive lineman going up to Jalen, and Jalen knowing and educating himself in-game how to make those in-game adjustments. Mm-hmm. Carson Wentz did not have that type of leadership. He didn't have that rapport with his teammates. Jalen, you can tell these guys are willing to run through a wall for him. Yep. And that says a lot. Says more than a draft pick. Says more than reaching. Says more than a quarterback factory. Says more than anything else that this guy is a born, certifiable leader of this team. Now, Frank, I completely 100% agree. It's our time. And Howie is just, regardless of what happens on Thursday, I want everybody to walk away with this. Howie knows that he has to get it right. Howie knows that if he screws up this draft, he'll be back in the doghouse with the fan base. Howie knows that you could be in one day in Philadelphia, out the next. He understands that. Why do you think that there is not a perspective that he's not willing to listen to? Though is that unique player. That doesn't mean that it has to be a corner. Doesn't mean that he's opposed to drafting a safety, opposed to drafting a running back or a receiver, or even, and EOP Live brought this up on Wednesday, a tight end at the first round. I wouldn't be surprised because they run two tight end sets that Howie would even just, maybe not at 10, but if they keep to the 30, that they would entertain a tight end being drafted. Now, look, that's surprise me. Not absurd because Howie is not taking anything off the board. Folks, we had a great show, running low on time. The Sixers are going to be coming on soon. The Phillies are going to be coming on soon. Everybody, please enjoy Earth Day. clean up, take care of the planet. Number 2, sweep the Nets and send Ben Simmons back under the Brooklyn Bridge. Number 3, Jonathan Gannon, stay in your lane or I will come for you. Number 4, this is the Pattison at Phanatics for Frank Finnegan, James Scores, Damon Salim, Tom Kelly. I'm Joe Marks, and we are out.